Hello everyone and welcome to Sci-Fi Zone, where we celebrate science fiction movies and TV shows from the past, the present and the future. I'm here today with Claire and MPS and we're coming to you from the wonderful comic book store of alternate worlds. Most people out there drive cars, and if you're one of those lucky people who has a customised science fiction number plate on your car, how cool is that? All around the world, you can just imagine how many Jedi and Sith and Trekker and Trekkie varieties there happens to be. But we want to have a bit of a quick chat about some innovative number plates and some really, really cool ones. Now I'm going to kick this off with MPS because he's got a very, very cool story to tell.
So Claire and I have this friend called Craig Miller. Craig Miller worked for...
Hi, Craig.
Hi, Craig. Worked for
Are you watching
Lucasfilm
Craig? If you're not, you should be.
back in the day. And back in the day, in LA, they had 7-digit rego plates as it is. So his was THX 1138. Now, the stories we've heard from Craig are numerous. But one of them was that he got that rego plate and everyone thought it was George Lucas's car. So what they would do is people would leave scripts on his windscreen thinking it was George, saying, "Dear George, here's a script, blah, 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 etc., etc." However, it wasn't George, and Craig got to read a few scripts and got to throw out a few scripts, I think, as well. So,
and of course the irony being that George Lucas would never have THX 1138 on his car, but hey, people wouldn't have thought any different. So how groovy is that? Now here's a bit of a funny one for you. In some countries, in some states, including the one that we're in right now, you can only have 6-digit number plates. So THX 1138 doesn't exist, but THX 138 does. Is actually a government issued plate. So some person out there right now has got this plate that they probably don't really care about. And you might say, hey, it's not really the real deal. But ironically, if you know the movie American Graffiti, George Lucas actually put in THX 138. So how cool is that? So, because you've only got a 6-digit plate set up, as we have in this case, we're going to actually pull out a couple of really interesting ones just to see how people get around the problem of what happens when you don't have enough letters to get your plate names to come across. So we've got a couple of screens here that we're going to be looking at, and I'm going to read these out and just see if you can work out what this means. So in this case, we've got BTLSTR. That should be pretty straightforward. What do you think that means, guys?
It's got to be Battlestar.
Very good. It is Battlestar. It's very, very cool. The next one is a bit more innovative. This is how you get around certain problems. So we have CIIIPO.
Oh.
What do you reckon?
C3PO.
Very good. See, C3PO is such a long name. What else are you going to do? Of course, you have to have C3PO. I reckon that's actually quite good. In case you're trying to figure it out, 3 in Roman numerals is III. So how groovy is that? Next one is FABI. What do you think that is?
that's got to be Thunderbirds.
Very good.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
you would normally read the plate as Fabby. Okay, keeping in mind that some people don't actually have science fiction plates without realising it. So, for example, if you've got the number plate Vulcan, I mean, of course, that's where the planet where Spock was born, but it's also the name of a company that builds gas heaters. So sometimes they just happen to be, coincidentally, sci-fi related. But yes, FABI can be read as Fab 1, Lady Penelope's Rolls Royce. How good's that? Next one along is an easy one. If you know your stuff, it's IX, which is obviously the Roman numerals for 9, but what is its science fiction relation? This is a bit, I saw this one and I thought, oh, that is very impressive. Keeping in mind the 2-digit number plates are very expensive. You may not know, but you should know.
No.
No idea? It's actually the planet X from Dune. It's where they build all the thinking machines. So there you go. See, me as a nerd, as soon as I saw that, I said, oh my God, it's X. Although I'm sure the owner of the car would have no idea what that is. This is a cool one. LADYE. What is that? What do you think that is? Once again, Claire, you should know this one.
I should know.
You
You
should
say
know.
that so many times,
no.
and most of the time I don't know.
No, not sure. It's actually, it's a bit of a fan thing. Lady E is what Star Trek fans call the Enterprise. So there you go. So this is from all the original series. So the Lady E. So it wasn't just like the ship, it was the Lady E. How cool is that? Next one along, LUMPY2. This should be an easy one.
Oh, it's got to be Chewie's son, Lumpy.
Exactly right. So if you ever saw the Star Wars Holiday Special in 1978, somebody has Chewie's kid, Lumpy. That was his name. How cool is that?
Sad, not cool.
Now, if you went up to the person who owned that car and told them that, I'm sure that they would really appreciate knowing this bit of
They'd give
history.
you a Lumpy.
It's funny because you say that, but there's every chance that the person in that car does know what it means.
Well,
and
some
has
of them,
it for a reason.
True. Some of them are quite legitimate. So MTFBWY. What is that?
You should know what this one is.
Oh, you keep saying that. Stop it. MTFBWY.
Yep. This is how you get around a problem when you've got way too many letters and you need to condense it right down.
Into 6 words.
Yep.
Don't know.
No, you can go for it.
May the force be with you.
Exactly right. How good is that?
I know.
All right, now this one
Why did
is
you say I should know that? I'm not the Star Wars fan.
there's a
here.
funny story. There's a funny story behind this one. NTRPSE, and you're gonna laugh when you hear this one. What
Well,
are you
the
gonna?
closest thing I can think of is Enterprise.
Very good. And the reason why that is so humorous is the fact that our videographer, who's filming this right now, that's his number plate. So how good is that?
Cool.
Had to condense like a 10-letter word down to 6.
Well, it's a pretty good effort.
Yeah, it's a very, very good effort. What could I say? Okay, there's only a handful left to do. Okay, TYPE40. It's obviously read as Type 40. What would Type 40 be? Now, I even had to ask the owner of this rego plate what the reference was, and I was really quite surprised, actually. You guys would know it without actually knowing you know it.
Really?
It's the type of TARDIS.
Well,
Oh, wow.
oh my God, he's
Okay,
got cool
cool.
factor. How did you know that?
I know things.
That's a Doctor Who thing. How
It
did
is.
you know that?
Yes, the
I know
TARDIS.
stuff.
The TARDIS is a
Okay.
Type 40 travel machine.
I can pull stuff like that out
Very
every
good.
so often.
Now, Claire, do you
okay.
like time travel?
Yeah, I do. I really like time travel.
There you go. Have a swig. Very cool. So yes, how about that? Did you actually know that? So, and yes, someone obviously does have the number plate TARDIS. He's actually a friend of ours, which is kind of groovy. All right. So WOOOSH. What would this be?
Whoosh.
Whoosh. And how is that related to science
Is
fiction?
this the sound of the Enterprise going past?
Very good. So if you're a fan of Star Trek, especially if you ever got to see it in a theatre setting, whenever the Enterprise flashed past in the opening credits, fans would go, whoosh. How good's that?
That's cool.
How good is that one? Absolutely love it. Okay, we've only got a couple left to go. YT1300. And this, the owner of this plate did actually know what this was, what the reference was. There are fans out, I'm sure you're watching this right now and you're going, oh my God, this is so obvious. What's taken so long? Not sure?
No.
It is the build number of the Millennium Falcon. So there you go.
Had a feeling it was going to be a Star Wars
And I actually
one.
pulled up next to the guy who actually owned this plate and he actually had a Star Wars sticker on the side of his car and he gave him the big thumbs up. Yeah, good on you, mate. So it was very, very, very cool. All right, and this is the last one. If you can get this, I'll be very impressed. WOLFI1. Don't worry about the one so much. It's just the word. Where would that have been referenced in a science fiction media place?
Well, there are tons of references to Wolf.
Yeah, but this is Wolfie. Where does Wolfie get mentioned? Even the crew are sitting there. Some of them are nodding their heads, some of them are shaking their
I'm going
heads.
to kick myself because I reckon I know it, but I can't off the top of my head think
No,
about it.
I don't know.
Hey, I pulled out Type 40. I don't
Yeah,
need to
that
do
You
well,
did.
it.
I was
you've
very
done
impressed. Wolfie was actually the other dog's name, if you will, from Terminator 2.
That's right.
So Max was the real name, and when the Terminator asked John Connor what's the name, he says, he goes on the phone, oh, how's Wolfie doing? Oh, Wolfie's just fine, dear. But of course his name was Max. How cool is that? So while you rush out to buy yourself a customised number plate, show your science fiction allegiance to the world. If you don't have enough letters, you can always find ways to substitute a couple of words here and there, a couple of letters here and there, and make it sound really groovy. Use a bit of innovation. Absolutely fantastic. All right, and with that in mind, we're going to take a break, and we will be back with you after these messages. Don't go away.
Alternate Worlds has been specialising in comics and collectibles for over 40 years, with a back issue collection of over 500,000 comics covering the golden age right through to latest releases, including signed and slabbed gems. They also have an enormous graphic novel collection, one of the largest ranges of manga in the country, as well as toys, statues and pops, and new items are arriving every Wednesday. Each month, Alternate Worlds hosts its own premium comic day, where all the rare treasures are put on display for inspection and purchase. The store also runs regular tournaments and competitions for both comic and gaming fans. And for local and interstate and international buyers, the Alternate Worlds website features their complete range of products. So whether you come in online or in store, visit them soon.
Welcome back to the show. We finally get to talk about something that we've been missing out on for the past few weeks, and apparently there's some people out there been hanging out for this particular topic, so I'm not going to hold back any longer. MPS, the show's all yours.
I just got to ask this question. What kind of a world do we live in where a man dressed up as a bat gets all of my press? You didn't answer the question.
I'm just trying to think of. I'm trying to think of a rhetorical, fancy
no
answer, like a man dressed up as a nerd, or.
So look, for the most part, when you guys, you don't see this, but I'm going to show you a bit of movie magic here. For some segments, I write lots of notes. For this one, not a thing. All right, that's gone. Okay, we're not even going to talk. Yeah, I'm in the head. I know that. All right, so Batman turned 30 this year. Original Michael Keaton, Tim Burton extravaganza with Jack Nicholson. Look, the film was, at the time, a long time in production. So we'll go back to when they did Superman 2, so 1980. From 1980, they tried to get Batman into a film version, and they had many directors, many scripts, many people put forward. We went through the list of people in an episode previously, talking about Robert Pattinson becoming the new Batman. So there was all that sort of stuff, but it took many years for it to actually occur. And it wasn't until 1986 that Tim Burton was offered the project, in a sense. So he took on the project, and the only film he'd done then was Pee-wee's Big Adventure. In between doing that and getting to Batman, he did a couple of others. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Beetlejuice was one of them.
Beetlejuice was the main one, which he introduced to Michael Keaton. So when Michael Keaton became Batman, they had already a working chemistry, and it was pretty good. Then they bring in the villain, so they bring in Jack Nicholson, who played the brilliant version of the Joker, in my opinion, the closest to the comic books for a live action series. We know the big rigmarole that Michael Keaton was a comedian. He didn't get in with too many of the fans at the time because he's too funny, blah, 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 he won't be serious. But he was actually very clever in what he did. He was the person who also suggested that he drops his voice because, as he said to Tim Burton, why do I want to talk like the same person as Bruce Wayne as Batman? Similar to what happened in the TV series back in the 60s. So he was the one that came up with the idea of dropping his voice down. The suit was another piece of genius because it went into a body armour of sorts. And from that suit, every Batsuit since then and virtually every superhero costume from them has come from that. The Flash TV series, which came out in 1990, was very similar in that sort of fashion. It was just top of the line at the time. It was brand new, and multiple versions of the suit were sort of put together so he could wear it for different things. The cape, in actual fact, there was two different types of cape because there was one that he had, well, there was multiples because the one that he opens the cape up with at the beginning of the film, there's the one that he wears normally, and there's the one that he wears when he's in the Batmobile. Also in the Batmobile, he's got a shorter cowl because the ears are too long and the car is too short.
I wonder how he figured that one out when the cowl first closed. It was like, oh, that Alfred!
So yeah, there was a lot of costume changes for just jumping into the Batmobile. The Batmobile itself was an original design based on, or partly based on,
a car. Ford Futura, wasn't it?
No, that was a 60s Batmobile. No, it was partly based on this design of a fish. So the fish tail at the back was the fish fins.
I was close, all right.
Yeah, Ford Futura, one-off car back in 1955. Who else we got in there? We've got Vicky Vale, played by Kim Basinger, who played the role perfectly, except to my annoyance, sometimes screams just a little too much.
You can almost have a scream count. Actually, if you put together all these clips of her screaming, there's a lot of screaming that she goes through. So yes, that is a little bit distracting.
She didn't have much choice about that though.
No.
I think a couple of them were truly, like when the flowers pop up in her apartment. I think that
looked pretty real.
That was pretty much a crap moment. And when the Joker is in the, what's the museum called?
Guggenheim.
The Flugelheim.
Guggenheim.
The Guggenheim is the real one.
Oh, well, there you go. Jeez, F's, what's the diff? You know?
I know. Well, we are talking about a made-up city, Gotham City, which is, well, like every other DC city made up, basically.
You know why I couldn't remember the name of the museum? I was too busy trying to think of Kim Basinger's weight. 108, if I recall. She weighs a little more than that, apparently.
does.
So there,
She does.
that's in pounds, by the way, in case you didn't know. So yes, continue.
That includes the camera and the bag that she also
Oh,
was
yeah,
carrying
true.
at the same time, and the film, because
Yeah,
damn
so-
it, he took the film.
So Flugelheim, yep.
And we're just going to throw in quotes every so often, so you get ready for that too, people. What else is there? Every time you hear a quote that you know of that is a Batman quote, drink. And I tell you what, don't take the cup out of
So
your hand.
I got to ask you. I know you're obviously a very large and very devoted Batman fan. Did you have concerns of the fact that it was Jack Napier who killed the parents and not Joe Chill?
Well, it certainly didn't
From the comics.
make any real difference in the film. It certainly didn't make it great that they changed the name of the character. But that sort of thing happens in these things. Look, for the film it works. For the whole fact that he's part of a group, then he becomes an individual, actually shows the origin of Joker, which we haven't seen yet in the comic books. It just goes along with the flow. I've come to terms with it after 30 years. But here's a question.
Last week that was, by the way. You came in terms of
yeah, it was
prior to
last
that, he was like, "Oh my God, I can't handle it." Sorry,
Did you realise, because I rewatched this again recently,
which I haven't. So that's the reason why I'm getting all this stuff wrong. Yeah, go on.
did you realise that when he is Jack Napier, he says, "Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?" As the Joker, he says, "By the pale moonlight." And then Batman at the end says, "In the pale moonlight." So there has been a bit of who says, how is it said, have you ever danced with the devil by the pale moonlight? It's by and in, and that was because I happened to watch it just a little too closely the other week, didn't I? But that was something I picked up after 30 years. Did you know that Bob Kane, co-creator, notice how I said co-creator, co-creator, was in the film? And what role did he have?
Well, I don't know. Was him personally?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That I didn't know. I know his cartoon appears as
It's
the
him
vampire.
holding up the cartoon as Alexander Knox walks
okay.
past. Needs a little more
Little
gore
on
around
the fangs. Yeah, exactly right. Oh, yeah, because it has his
What
name
a
on it, Bob
dick.
Kane. That was the
Yeah.
in gag, but I didn't realise it was him.
Yeah,
Okay.
no. The fact that Billy D. Williams is in it as Harvey Dent, which sort of would have thrown a bit of a spanner in the works had he have been Two-Face later on, because Two-Face is not really a dark-skinned character.
Which, ironically, these days you could do it and probably get away with it more so.
Yeah.
It would have been more acceptable today to do it than you would have, say, 30 years ago. But yeah, even when Harvey Dent did appear, you go, well, that's interesting. They've chosen an African-American for this. But it never went any further than that anyway. Having Harvey Dent there anyway was actually kind of groovy. So.
Get those wonderful toys.
And obviously, the film was successful for enough to make a sequel, but clearly someone in the production management side said it was actually literally getting too dark, which is a bit of a shame because the dark look actually worked, the whole Dark Knight, that sort of thing. And the fact that he was actually in black and was, as MPS mentioned earlier, was like a revolutionary design for the character and all the car and his back wing and all the rest of it, even Gotham City. And yeah, it was a good way to sort of start things off and start the franchise off.
Well, the whole idea, the first time you see the suit is the first version of a black bat suit. It's always been grey or blue, grey or black. It's never been completely black. As for Gotham City, the idea of Gotham City and the design of Gotham City by Anton First was what they did is they went all the way back and what New York might have looked like back in the 1900s if it had gone really dark and gave it that gothic look, which was fantastic. I love the architecture of that, that whole shoot.
Well, it turned a lot of people who weren't fans of Batman into Batman fans virtually overnight, and that legacy has continued on even to this day, which is absolutely fantastic.
What are you? I'm Batman.
So if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell for all the latest updates and exciting things that are going on around the place. Next week, of course, it's the end of the month, and that means it's fun, frolics and factoids, because we know you love your trivia. In the meantime, make sure you stay in the zone, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.